守れ愛する人、たくましい自分になれるさ。壊せ弱気な君を崩せぶつかる壁を、熱いこと武器になるから Believe in your heart。
わからず泣きた And now we are getting down to my personal judgment about the fourth figure of this figure series 04 Choshinga Tamashii series Tailmon Angewomon, or Digivolving Spirit series Gaitomon Angewomon. Welcome my friends! And in case you're wondering about the words of flying through the pictures here, that are the translated lyrics of the German songs I used for the background music, but I don't know at this time if I can do it for all German songs, because I have to record this judgment first before making the actual video because of technical reasons. And in case there are non-words flying through, I couldn't done it, and then don't mind this short information. The first song is, by the way, one of the German Digimon songs from the original German Digimon soundtrack. Yeah. And we are going on with the judgment. Since Choshinga Tamashii series is the original Japanese name, I will continue to use it more often than ours. Also here again, while judging this figure, I will going back to official statements and my personal prejudiced assumptions and statements that I made about in my update videos, which I made to every new announcement of this Choshinga Tamashii series promotion page. Bandai Tamashii Nations and the creators say themselves officially that with this figure series they strive to be the ultimate transformable Digimon figure series for adult collectors. Because of this official statement, I will also be very strict in my judgment here again. So let's see and have a closer look what we've got here. However, these statements are not so important here because you do not have an old transformable figure to compare with to be able to judge the possible improvements by comparing the old to the new figures, at least from this point of view. No, here we are entering uncharted territory once again with this fourth figure, since, as you probably know, there was no old transformable figure of Tailmon Angewomon in the past. And as I said in my update video, it was very surprising for me personally when they announced that the fourth release of the Digivolving Spirits would be Angewomon, because in contrast they had showed Alphamon much earlier and more often together with Diablomon at their Tamashii World Tour stations, and Angewomon surprisingly joined them some time later, and so I thought that the fourth release would be Alphamon Dorumon. Well, you can be wrong, because the 04 became Tailmon Angewomon. The fourth figure of the Choshinga Tamashii series, Tailmon Angewomon, was released on the 19th May 2018 in Japan. With Angewomon, it was clear to me from the beginning on that I would pre-order the figure in Japan to prevent the possible sales ban outside of Japan and Asia, as it was the case with the first GM series Angewomon Hikari figure from Mega House. I also pointed this out to you in the update video and gave you the advice to also pre-order the figure in Japan in your place. What actually surprised me very much was, after the disaster with the GM series Angewomon figure, our shops had the next upcoming GM series Lady Devimon figure not listed at all. That was not surprising, but what was surprising was that a sales ban for Choshinga Tamashii Angewomon didn't happen for the Western world, but fortunately for ours, and Digivolving Spirits Tailmon Angewomon was listed as a pre-order everywhere and was later officially sold here. Well, it could have been, but never mind. What surprised me very much was that the Nippon Yasan shop offered the figure as a pre-order for an unbelievable price of just about nearly $40 US. Remember my words in her update video. I said that Bandai's official suggested retail price for her was about of 63.18 US dollars. So she had the same suggested price as Agumon Wargreymon and was even announced a little cheaper than Gabumon Metal Garurumon, which I found, as I also said, very positive and very surprising, since there is no old transformable figure of Tailmon and Jevomon they could use as a template for creating the new one, and had to produce completely new injection molds for the figure, and therefore and above all had to invest more development and engineering costs for creating this Tailmon and Jevomon figure. Therefore I would have expected a similar price for it at that time as they suggested for Caramon Diablomon, because Chushinga Tamashii Caramon Diablomon was also announced and sold a little more expensive than Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon. So it is still a mystery to me how the Nippon Yasan shop could manage to sell Tailmon and Jevomon at that almost bargain price, which of course I found very positive. Yes, and of course I had pre-ordered the figure at the Nippon Yasan shop for this good price of just about that nearly 40 US dollars. In comparison, I think it was offered in other shops and eBay shops at a much higher dollar price, which roughly corresponded to the suggested yen price. In the German Figura shop, if I remember correctly, they sold the figure almost at the same high price as they offered for Caramon Diablomon, which was about far over 70 US dollars, and also was about rather nearly $80, as I said, if I remember correctly. It also didn't interest me either, because this price at Nippon Yasan was simply unbeatable. I think they definitely sold this figure undervalue, but why not? Why not? In any case, I was more than happy about this, and even with shipping cost and with the Transy Logistics custom fees option for Europe shipping, it was still a lot cheaper than if I had ordered it anywhere else. Plus, I had got the figure home earlier too. Because about Tailmon and Jevomon, the hype for me was again more to have it as quickly as possible, and that already from the beginning on, since I seen the first CG rendered pictures of the prototype. My Bandai had announced it relatively cheaply compared to Caramon Diablomon, despite the certainly high development costs. May also is because the fact that Jevomon compared to Wargreymon and Metal Garurumon, as you can see, is somewhat smaller and more petite. And while we are on the subject, first a few thoughts about Tailmon's, or for us Gatomon's form. And for all, yes, Tailmon is the original Japanese name for Gatomon. The figure in Tailmon's form measures about 4 3/4 inches from the feet to the top of the head, and about 5 3/4 inches from the feet to the tips of her ears. Again here, it is pretty obvious that the look of the pre-evolution level has been sacrificed for the better look of the higher evolution level, but it is also imaginable and logical that it is definitely very difficult to implement a transformable figure of these two characters at all, which transform from a cat into an angel lady. They still made it by using the shell former system, and Tailmon's form still looks very nice and very cute from the front. Though, of course, the overall image of Tailmon's form looks a bit stiff and boxy. But I think the sacrificing of the look of the pre-evolution level for the better look for the higher evolution level is, in my opinion, again a very good decision. But as I said, this is just logical because of the ability to transform. Tailmon's form can of course also score with a super detailed accurate paint job, and she also got colored with the accurately matching colors and color tones. Especially striking here again is the coloring of the big eyes, which are alone detailed painted with a total of 4 accurate colors. The paint job on my copy got very clean executed on all those different details. Some other person who reviewed it had bad luck and got a bit bad painted copy. And all the details that are typical and important for Tailmon were also molded very well and with sharp edges, and taken into account as well as it was generally possible with this overall body mold. Just take a look at her holy ring on her tail and how accurately it got shaped and molded. The holy ring even has the paint apps for the Digimon characters and symbols, and it got colored with a different color. In addition, we have a die-cast part on the pre-evolution form here for the first time on the figures of the series, which is actually also intended to be for Tailmon's form. And of course, I'm talking about the holy ring again. This is of course also very suitable for the ring that they made it out of die-cast. For what Tailmon is what it is, in this form you don't see kibble parts of the other form from the front view, or they could hide it very well due to the nature of the transformation system. As I mentioned and suspected in the update video, and from those images already, Angelwoman's arms and hands are visible from behind on Tailmon's form, which they had kinda covered up very intelligent in the official product images by using the right photo angle. But as I said, I had already suspected that, since it was for me from the beginning on logical that it can only be this way, because Tailmon's arms and paws have to form and represent turned upside down the end sections of Angelwoman's ribbon, which has actually been solved and implemented quite ingeniously. Then you have these big gaps on the sides where Angelwoman's arms hanging out, and you can see something of Angelwoman's other parts of the body too, and also a few more major transformation joints. This makes it look like Angelwoman is huddled together wearing an oversized cat costume, and somehow it looks also like a mascot costume known from sport events with a human under it. If you fold Tailmon's head back, as you can see, it is really striking. Oh my, there's a woman underneath! Hey yes, who would have guessed this? I think everyone could did. Yes, and almost every YouTuber who reviewed this figure enjoyed the fact, and all were joking about, so please let me. And I think you know what I mean with mascot and costume. But from this point of view, very funny, isn't it? But on the whole, and apart from that, they managed to close everything very well, and from the front view Tailmon has done quite well because of the limited possibilities to be able to implement it at all, in my opinion. Even that I had already noted in my update video about Tailmon and Angelwoman, and from the first product images I found it very impressive that Tailmon from the front and from the angle of the product images there is no kibble of the other Evo form visible. Tailmon's form got even less articulated than Caramon due to the nature of the mold. The hind paws can be tilted up and down and slightly tilted to the sides, but this is only possible because of the ability to transform, because at the same time they are also the transformation joints, and they are only used in Tailmon's form to be able to adjust the paws correctly and to be able to adjust the feet to the surface perfectly. But it is possible if you need it. The same applies to the ears, which can also be moved up and down a bit. Due to that are the transformation joints for Enjewumon wings at the same time. But I actually only achieved the right purpose and perfect alignment to the shape of the head in this particular position, and if you pose them too much upwards or downwards, you have more unnecessary slots. But it is also possible, even if it makes no sense. The head itself is completely not articulated due to the transformation ability. It is also similar with the arms. They can be rotated and adjusted slightly on the Enjewumon's arms, but because they should always be in the certain position with which it is at least best as possible to cover and hide Enjewumon's arms and hands from the front. As you can see, Tailmon also has a kind of elbow joint which you can bend forward a little, and on that hinge to be able to give the arms a more natural look. But here again, the same applies with the one specific position. The only joints that also serve the actual purpose as an actual joint for Tailmon's form are those for her tail. On the one hand, it can be moved up and down at the attachment base or tail base. In the middle you have this small hinge joint with which you can move her tail up and down again. However, these two joints are also transformation joints at the same time, so that the tail can be folded for Enjewumon's form as close as possible to the body parts. Her tail tassel is again attached to a molded on ball, so you can move it in any direction. All this in connection makes her tail very poseable, and you can pose it as you like. My copy in Tailmon's form can also be closed very well, and as it is intended. I saw a lot of YouTubers who complained that our copy could not be closed properly. I actually had the same problem with my copy first, but after taking a closer look and trying it out, I found that the figure can be closed cleanly and very easily if you tilt Enjewumon's feet or high heels as far as possible at the ankle joint to her back. But I will come back to that later. And here we are at the topic evolution or transformation. Tailmon or Gatomon for us can be transformed according to the instructions in roughly 14 transformation steps into her impressive ultimate form Enjewumon. And here again, the material of the instructions itself is again identical to that of Caramon Diablomon's instructions, and is again, as you can see, made of shiny photo paper, where the transformation steps has been also highlighted in color in those individual pictures. Again, the instructions of Wargreymon and Metal-Garurumon are, as you can see, only made of simple matte black and white printed paper, as those instructions of the old evolving Digimon figures were. This high quality style will probably be retained for the other figures. So much for that. Excuse me please. This figure goes again the right way of evolution because Tailmon is already champion level, but you can forget that easily due to her rather small size and cuteness compared to other larger champion level Digimon. She looks more like a rookie Digimon. The transformation is also very simple, since the huddled and folded body of Enjewumon's form hides, as you would expect it already in almost full form within Tailmon's shell, which for the most part moves to Enjewumon's back and indicates a part of the lower wing purse from the front. The only thing I would call actually transforming her here is the transformation of the arms and paws, which by turning them around, forming now the end sections of Angelwoman's ribbon, which also have turned around those important molded details to represent the ribbon for Angelwoman's form better. And the ears that becoming the two better representable wing pairs, and partly the transformation of the parts of the hind legs, which are also getting splitted and slightly used to represent the one lower wing pair from the front view. Therefore those parts even have those molded feather details on the insides to make them slightly a little better recognizable as wings from the front. Bandai had officially described it briefly and similarly to Caramon Diablomon, that out of the paintwork down to the smallest details, also the skin color change of the pre and next evolution forms from Tailmon to Angelwoman got also replicated as much as possible through the perfect transformation technique or by replacing parts. Back to my update video, I had already agreed to these official statements and I seen the paint job of those forms as absolutely wonderful and meant that both evolution forms got painted in great detail with the accurate colors. And that also applies to the real figure here and now. And that brings us to Angelwoman's form. When you have finished transforming from Tailmon to Angelwoman, you get, as it was already apparent from the first pictures of the painted prototype, an extremely impressive and well-proportioned figure of Angelwoman, with sharp-edged and molded components, with an immense backpack made of Tailmon forms parts on the back, which should at the same time represent something, and partly the individual wing pairs, and also that with the immense backpack was, of course, logical and obvious from the first images. Apart from the backpack, the Angelwoman figure itself is on the level of a Figuarts figure, and for me it is almost like that. Touching it. The body shape is absolutely accurate and has a very well proportioned female body shape and female accurate body shape in general. I already said it in my update video. When you ignore the kibble and the somewhat strange looking shape of the wings, the accurate, precise body shapes, hardly remembering on a transformable figure in view of the coarse body shapes of the old Digivolving Angelmon figure, and that was what Bandai officially described and accompanied with this picture here. And even if you don't have an old figure of Tailmon Angelwoman as a reference for comparing the new work, you can actually imagine from this picture how an old Digivolving version of Angelwoman might have looked like. Definitely this would not have been so beautifully female proportioned, and this is what is very impressive compared to this old Angelmon. The molded details are accurate, and at the same time the amount of different details taken into account is just breathtaking, and all of these details that are important and typical for Angelwoman have been taken into account accurately and as you would wish, molded and colored impressively with the absolutely matching colors and color tones until to that smallest details. The paint job is very clean and also corresponds to the Tamashii Figuarts paint job standards in general. On none of these molded details lacks in the paint apps, even the buckles on their two leather straps on her right leg and on the left high heel front were cleanly colored, as well as the zippers. Basically, her proportions and paint job is identical to the shown prototype, which fact I already noted as very positive in my update video. The only difference is the color of the Digimon characters and symbols on the ribbon, which were simply painted black on the prototype figure, but the decision to change that for the real figure and using this great shimmery, shiny, pinkish, metallic color instead for them, I didn't find that this bad and even more matching, as I already rated it in my update video, because that looked super fitting in these official product images. And if you really have the figure in your hands, it looks really great and even better than it looked in those product images. And I actually like it so much better this way, so it is not as striking as the black of the prototype, but absolutely fitting and more decent, and still it's standing out. So I personally think it fits this way more perfectly. And it is also high creditable to them that they have taken these symbols into account at all, as I had it already mentioned in my update video. These symbols are missing on the ribbon, in contrary to the in general accurately painted first GEM series Angel Woman figure from Mega House with Hikari. And they not even been carved out, though this GM series Angel Woman figure is much bigger. And they chose this bladed style for her helmet, breast armor, and the holy ring is so wonderful to look at and was chosen to be super fitting. Not to be forgotten is that the holy ring on her left leg has also the paint apps of the Digimon symbols, as it should be, and also in general I like the chosen colors and color tones very well. And here the interplay of glossy and matte colors is very well recognizable and flawless and fitting. For this super detailed painting and the countless color applications, this figure can only get the full number of points, because that is just high class, also in terms of its small and petite size compared to her other Choshinka Tamashii brothers. Just impressive and super cool. The only thing that could not be proportioned so well is the overall shape of the feet or the shape of the high heels in general. If you compare this with other feet shapes or with the shape of high heels of other female real Figuarts figures, they have a much better and more natural shape in comparison than that of Digivolving Spirits Angel Woman high heels, which was probably not otherwise possible to do it as well as on the other female real Figuarts figures because of the ability to transform. Now why? Of course, due to the lack of space inside the Tailmon shell. If you consider it that the Tailmon's body shell even cannot probably be closed if the high heels are not fully tilted to the back of Angel Woman, as I mentioned before, then it's kind of logical, isn't it? There shouldn't be no point deduction for that either, nor it shouldn't be a criticism. I just wanted to mention this. What doesn't look good for Angel Woman's form but can also be seen as a compromise for both evolution forms is that the details of the ribbon end sections are also, even if they turned around, could be very noticed as Tailmon's hand claws and paws through the three extreme striking tips, because those sections, as you can see, are the hand claws of Tailmon. So they also look for Angel Woman's form not as good, and those end sections are looking more in shape and length according to the claws of Tailmon, rather like the claws and not this accurate like the ribbon end sections should look like for Angel Woman's form, what is of course also only logical. But I think they should had add more joints for each claw to be able to fold them back for the right presentation of the end sections of the ribbon for Angel Woman, or at least to be able to hide the claws from the front. That would have been very positive and definitely possible, in my opinion. Here they took the easy way out once again. So for Tailman's form, they could also been sprayed out probably with plastic from behind and painted with the right claw colors then. The fact that the huge backpack of Tailman's shell ports hanging down on her back is very obvious, especially the huge head and face of Tailman's form was of course logical and probably not possible to implement it in any other way, and of course it was obvious from the beginning on. That is why all of these parts from the rear view also have the coloring and components details of Tailman's form. They have tried to make the parts look as good as it was possible as wings from the front view for Angel Woman's form, and in this context, with considering the transformation ability, all of this has also been solved ingeniously. Though there are no complaints from this point of view, but if you now consider Bandai Tamashi's own official statements from the point of view that with this figure series they strive to be the ultimate transformable Digimon figure series for adult collectors, the accuracy of the wings remaining for me again as a try, and they did not stay true to the statement in following point of view. And again, it is clear that it was not otherwise possible to manage it with the transformation differently, but how about a separate interchangeable option port with the correctly proportioned, precisely and accurately shaped and molded wing purse and wings? Because this complete backpack of Tailman's parts anyway has been designed in an unusual way, completely detachable. You could even see it in some official pictures beforehand, and it is even shown in the instructions. For these pictures, as you can see, they even removed the entire long ends of the ribbons, which are from behind Tailman's arms and claws, to have removed the last Tailman kibble from Angel Woman's body. On these official pictures, they probably wanted to express how great this figure looks from behind, and that it looks like a Figuarts figure when the backpack is completely removed. But where are the typical and important wings for Angel Woman then? Right, completely gone, and the figure then looks like a normal female Figuarts figure without wings. But designing the whole thing just to show how great the figure looks from behind without a backpack, so that it can then be displayed on such a Tamashi stage, doesn't serve any purpose for me and everyone else. After all, it should anyway, and above all, embody Angel Woman, and not just some random female Figuarts figure with Angel Woman's clothes without wings. Yes, and to be able to recognize her correctly as Angel Woman, the extra part with the accurate molded and shaped wings is missing then. And what is an Angel Woman without the typical angel wings? Right, just a female figure cosplaying Angel Woman. So Bandai, what is that supposed to mean with this Tamashi stage presentation? And what in the world did you think about this? This is completely senseless, or isn't it, people? Yes, and that would have been so easy to do for Bandai Tamashi, wouldn't it have been? But unfortunately, Bandai Tamashi did not consider this important part, or did not take it into account for the critical collectors which is a very bad thing, and really leaves a lot to be desired. It would have been so easy to attach the extra part into the hole where the backpack is otherwise attached, and you would be done, because the backpack is detachable anyway. A really sad omission that otherwise almost could upgrade the figure to the level of a Figuarts Angewomon. Because of the proportions alone, the figure in Angewomon's form is, as I already mentioned several times, more like a non-transformable Figuarts Angewomon figure, and apart from the backpack, and if you detach it, even from behind, it is almost free of Tailmon's kibble and almost accurate to the original character design, and this makes the figure in Angewomon's form the best of this figure series in terms of the accurate perfect proportions. The individual body parts to each other compared to Wargreymon thin legs and small shin armor, Metal Garurumon's different sizes of the front and rear body sections, Diablomon's too small hands and much too slim and small sized feet, etc. Nonetheless, Diablomon can keep his status as the best figure for me in regard to the few kibble parts of Caramon's shape and an almost flawless all-around view, also in connection with my little folding trick to make disappear the last clearly visible Caramon kibble parts with regard to the general good all-around view, since the huge backpack of Tailmon's parts on Angewomon's back destroys this pure view again. But in contrary to this, and is Angewomon perfectly proportioned, and how now imagine her once more with an extra attachable part with the accurately sized and perfectly molded wings with a slightly different ribbon construction and an extra clip-on hair part. This side would have been so super cool. Then remove the extra ring part, ribbon part and hair part and attach the backpack back, and still they would have brought the transformation in line. That would have been so great. Yes, but unfortunately they made it too simple, what is very unfortunate. And that you also can read always in the comment sections of international review videos of this figure, and you can see that it would have been the wish of most people to have such an accurate wing option part for Angewomon's form. Well, then, just like mentioned shortly before, the upper part of the ribbon with the Digimon symbols which goes over the head had to be designed different and detachable instead of being molded on Tailmon's back of the head shell, and their head must be also an extra ball pack added to the middle hair section like it is molded on the sides, in order to be able to attach an extra hair piece there, as just mentioned, for a more accurate look and length of the hair, but also that would have been possible somehow. Well, but unfortunately we didn't get better accurate extra wings from Bandai Tamashii, and that really leaves something to be desired for a figure that is intended to be for critical collectors. As you can read in many comments, many cannot be so enthusiastic about the new transforming Digivolving Spirits figure series, or even express great disinterest about it, and would rather have seen this Angewomon figure as a full Figuarts Digimon figure. So if they made it like described, Bandai could actually have killed two birds with one stone. What a failure on the part of Bandai this is. Because just imagine now that those who say now, hey, these new transformable Digimon figures don't interest me, but would still randomly watch a review video about this figure and then probably think, hey, this Angel Woman form looks really not bad, and the person who would reviewing it would suddenly say, and people, what is really great here, this figure has a special gimmick, because you can detach the entire backpack with the Tailmon kibble. Then you have here a separate option port with these beautiful accurate wings, which you can now attach to the back instead of the backpack, and then you have these two separate attachable option ports for the accurate representation of the ribbon. And here, this extra hair option port to make the hair look even more accurate and making it longer. Isn't it great what Bandai came up with? And yes, I know it was all just fantasy now, but imagine what most of them would think. Maybe yourself be one of those who would then think, hey, these new transformable Digimon figures are still not so mine, but with the special gimmick, what they came up with for Angel Woman is great. I will get this figure because it comes to a desired Figuarts Angel Woman figure with these additional options, and despite the transforming ability, actually very close, isn't it? That's exactly what most of you would think, who think this way. Thus, Bandai could have sold a transformable Angel Woman figure to these Figuarts enthusiasts who otherwise are not interested in the series, but they would have bought the Angel Woman rather more because of the additional option ports, because with those the figure almost would have touched an Angel Woman Figuarts version. Bandai should have taken that into consideration. It is crying out for an upgrade kit for this Angel Woman figure, and it's not too late for that. So hey Bandai, you can still do it. It's still not too late. But well, and now I come back to the reality and the other negative facts about the figure. Because what you also have to say about the accuracy of the wing backpack is that a pair of wings is completely missing due to the possibilities of implementing the transformation ability, because Tailmon ports are only able to form a total of only 3 wings or wing pairs, better 3 wing pairs, excuse me please, but Angel Woman's original character design has a total of 4 wing pairs. I think I mentioned that in one of my update videos too. Well, with very much fantasy, you can hint the 4th missing wing pair if you turn and angle Tailmon's hind paws like I do. So as you can see, maybe you can make look these parts as the 4th missing wing pair and indicate them with these parts. Somehow it works for me. So she not only has 3 pairs of wings, but well, indicate is the only right word for this option too. You can also find many pictures where the fans themselves have given the figure a few better custom wings. For example, there is this picture where the owner bought the cheap China knockoff version of the first GM series Angel Woman with Hikari, and then cut off the wings from it and somehow attached them all to a clip-on port, and then attached this whole structure to the Choshinga Tamashii figure's back. However, the GM series figure is much bigger than this transformable one here, and therefore the wings of the GM series figure are a way too big and too bulky for her. So just a compromise solution and unsuitable for me as a fairly accuracy freak, because they are too big for the right presentation as I described. Others commented that a few Gunpla sets would be suitable for this, but that only marginally. In the Transformers fan universe, this job would do a third-party company to resolve the problem of the missing extra wings for the original figure and create such an extravagant part for the fans. Like for example the third-party company DNA Design fixed the issue with the extremely loose arms and arm-shoulder construction on the Transformers movie masterpiece MPM6 Ironhide figure by creating a great upgrade kit for this Transformers figure that fixed this extreme looseness, but this only as an example, and back to the main topic. Unfortunately, there is no third party to improve the Digimon figures. That should only be an example. So to solve this problem with Angelwoman's wings remains to the collectors themselves. The next negative thing is, excuse me please, the next negative thing is that the detachable backpack is incredibly loose there, and even by very easy handling with the figure it simply detaches and falls off, which is firstly really annoying, and secondly it is also dangerous if it falls down and falling on the pointy sharp-edged wing details, so it can cause damage. So be careful when handling with the figure. This problem increasing through the figure also has to lean on its backpack, so another force acts to the looseness of the backpack, and that is enough force to loosen it, because this pack sits so loosely in this hole on the back, so it is recommended to lean the figure somewhere onto, but even then this extreme looseness makes it difficult. And in addition, I recommend before taking the figure in your hands to push the backpack back into the hole so that you can safely take Angelwoman away and the backpack does not fall down and getting damaged. This looseness of the backpack is another minus point. Tough, the figure is now generally not responsible for it. Fortunately, this problem can also be easily and simply solved by using the kitchen paper trick again, as I described it in more detail in my Tangmangi X Omegamon Sword X antibody review video. This works great again and is so easy to fix for everyone who has the figure and is just as annoyed by the looseness of the backpack like I was. And if we are already by the things that are not so accurate on her, I will go a little further with them, whereby the next points are not as blatant as the missing additional accurate wings, extra ribbon piece and hair piece. I just want to mention the next points and actually would rate them as negative at all. Well, one more, and these are the somewhat large kneecaps, but that's just fine, and the problem have various figure arts figures too. And the other points relating again to the accurate proportions and shapes. On one hand, we have the hair, which due to the transformation ability and lack of space could not be designed as long and fully as it should be. But that is only noticeable if you remove the entire backpack. Then of course the hair is much too short and there is too less hair in general. But if you have the backpack attached, it is not relevant. You have the right shape and length very nicely indicated with these outer strands of hair, which, due to the good articulation of those, you can even let them hanging outside of the shell and downwards the body, so that it at least looks like there is more hair than it actually is. Excuse me please. This fact is very positive, and in my opinion they made the best of what was possible. And that's why there is a plus point at least from me for this. Furthermore, you could also mention the rear view of the legs, which do not look quite like a figure legs from behind, because they have those longer notches, but the legs must have the ability to transform so that the lower part of the legs can be folded up to the upper part as much as it possible, which also makes those notches completely okay, because the figure should not be a figure arts figure, but a transformable one. Well, and that the high heels are not quite accurately shaped and looking a bit too clunky, we had at some point before. To finish the whole negative things topic, we come to the joints and articulation, with which the figure in Angelwoman's form can really shine and impress again, and collect a lot of plus points. Because also here from the joint system, Angelwoman touches a human figure arts figure in general, though of course in a somewhat simplified form, but still it is impressive. The head is even on a ball hinge joint, so some movements with it are possible in all directions until the hair parts getting in the way. The feather details on the helmet can also be turned up and down a bit, though this is more for the transformation, but it is still possible to adjust them as you like. The tailmon back shell with the molded on upper ribbon part can also be put forwards and backwards, which is very good because there is not much space up there for the shell top and the feather details on the helmet. And the helmet details also touching the edges there, so it is also advisable to push the shell back a little, as I did here, to prevent damages to the feather tips of these details, and to be able to bring the ribbon details on the helmet a little higher into the accurate position. The arms are attached to such a typical figure arts ball hinge shoulder joint that allows movements in all directions until parts getting in the way. The arms are each rotatable at the biceps, which is also great and helps to bring up the ribbon details pieces that are molded on around the arms to make it look that they are actually connected to the upper ribbon parts. What they are, as you can see, are actually not really, but at least that is how you can hint and imitate it, which is great. Then of course we have elbow joints. Now they are not double jointed elbows here, but despite the existing and molded around ribbon details, it is all the more impressive that you can actually bend the elbows despite of these ribbon parts. The ribbon parts is those ribbon parts are very flexible and stretches a little, therefore it allowing the elbows to bend, which is absolutely great, and you wouldn't necessarily suspect that by the first look. But that's really top functionally designed and implemented. In addition, the hands are again on such a molded on ball pack on which you can turn and tilt her hands in any direction. What is a bit annoying about is that the hands falling off easily when you're moving them too much, but you can still attach them back on very easily. The lower structure of the ribbon can also be rotated here thanks to the transformation joints, and it is additionally provided with another hinge joint. The middle piece of the lower hinge part is connected to a ball pack, and the end section of the ribbon is connected again with a hinge joint. So you can pose the ribbon a little with the interaction of all these ribbon joints so that you can give it a natural fluttering in the wind look. What is also very cool, These are also Tailmon's arm and wrist joints at the same time, logically. But they also serve another purpose for Angewomn's form, so that you can set them as you find it the best. She doesn't have a hip joint for whatever reason, but instead they given her such a typical upper torso swivel tilt bend joint. No idea how I should correctly call that. But so the upper torso from the chest section is very poseable. And just let me say, so she can do nicely circling movements with the upper torso. Maybe she likes yoga very much. And she can even do that with the backpack attached to her back, which fact is actually incredible but true. And the upper torso section is on a ball pack and connects it to the lower section of the body. The leg or thigh joint system could be made out of die-cast. It is very difficult to see it, but in any case the balls within the thighs are die-cast. These die-cast balls are then connected with a hinge joint, which makes the legs even a little bit spread able to the sides, actually even very wide spread able. Well, she can do full splits now, but it is enough for a few cool fighting poses, which is great. In addition, you can even turn her legs far forward on the die-cast balls, and if you don't have the backpack on, then even far backwards. Which is generally very impressive, because you would not immediately suspect it now. She looks so restricted and almost not poseable there in her back shell when you see her standing there. But in reality, she is not that at all, and Angewomn surprises with a great articulation that comes close to that of a Figuarts figure, which fact is just awesome. She has no swivel for the thighs and knees, but since you have these die-cast balls in the thighs, you can turn the legs very little and a little there to the left and right, but as I said, only slightly, and you should also prefer not to overdo it. What is also very positive is that this whole thigh joint system is very tight and firm, so that she keeps and holds the set poses very easy, and in this respect it is again better than on some Figuarts Digimon figures. Of course, in connection with supporting her standing on her lower wing pair from the backpack. Of course, she can't stand upright on her high heels on her own with the backpack on, because it's too heavy and pulls her backwards, logically. The same thing with the good strength also applies to the entire arm joints. Then we even have double jointed knees. Well, that's more for the transformation, but it doesn't matter. She has. Furthermore, she has ball hinge joints as angle joints, which can be used to tilt the feet up and down, which, as I mentioned before, is mainly more for the transformation, but hey! And in addition, the feet can also be rotated to the left and right at this angle ball hinge joint, thanks to the transformation joints. The wings are also somewhat adjustable on these hinge joints. But the outer part of each wing actually only serves the correct purpose and hiding of Tailmon's ear brushes within the certain position radius. So the articulation is impressive, and it is therefore a shame that the additional option ports mentioned above are missing. Let us get into the die-cast parts on her. On Angewomn, that are of course the helmet, her golden breast armor and the holy ring on her left leg. So Bandai Tamashii didn't lie to us, because exactly these parts were officially described as the die-cast parts in advance. I had already suspected that in my update video from the beginning on that they would make exactly these 3 parts out of diecast, because it was just logical and also a great fit. And the color scheme of the helmet is really first class, and that the breast armor parts and the holy ring are this gold plated is just so great. Sergi collects plus points again because of that, as it was officially described, makes this high quality finish absolutely noticeable. Finally, as always, a few words about the box. Of course, the box of the 4th figure release is again a blind box and has as cover the illustrations of the respective 2 characters, illustrated very beautifully by the Digimon designer Kenji Watanabe himself. This design will be also retained for upcoming boxes. On this box you can see, the cool illustrations. Excuse me please, my mistakes. Again, on this box you can see the cool illustrations by Kenji Watanabe of Tailmon and Angewomon. The box is again matte, this time mainly with the darker pink colored as the basic colors, and only the illustrations of Tailmon and Angewomon are printed shiny again. Otherwise you have the Diecast Evolution logo on the left front again, which is highlighted in that shiny silver. Then you have the inscription for the title in shiny white on a matte grey background, Digivolving Spirits, including a little larger in Japanese the Japanese name Choshinga Tamashi, and Digimon Adventure Tailmon Angewomon 04 for the 4th release of this figure series. Among them, very small again Japanese writings, Bandai 2018 made in China to the right, illustrated by Kenji Watanabe. And in the lower right corner the Digimon Adventure logo, and below it the Bandai Tamashii Nations logos. The lid is, as you can see, only matte dark pink and shiny white printed in the middle, again in a similar form the designation Digivolving Spirits, Choshinga Tamashi, Digimon Adventure 04, Tailmon Angewomon. And to the left and right of it printed bright shiny pink, and as it is usual the silhouettes of the figures of Tailmon and Angewomon. The left side, as you can see, shows a product image of Tailmon's form, and above it the shiny white title again, Digivolving Spirits Choshinga Tamashi, Digimon Adventure 04, Tailmon Angewomon, which is here once again surrounded by the 8 crest symbols in a circle, as we already know of Agumon, Wargreymon and Gabumon Metal Garumon's boxes. On the right side we have a product image of Angewomon's form below the white shiny printed title again without the crest symbols. The matte back shows, as it is usual, the great promotion image from the promotion page with all sorts of labels and explanations in Japanese, which I cannot read. The diecast parts are highlighted again. Above on the left again the title, this time printed in shiny dark pink. Digimon Adventure 04, Tailmon Angewomon. On the right opposite again matte dark pink, Digivolving Spirits, Choshinga Tamashi, and below the printed Diecast Evolution logo again. To the left of Angewomon are parts from the promotional texts in Japanese and even in English again, which briefly explaining what Digivolving Spirits or Choshinga Tamashi series is. A few English warnings below on the left, and on the right opposite even, again in shiny printed, the great promotion image for the next figure in line again. Next lineup, 05 Digimon X Evolution, Dorumon, Alphamon. On the bottom, the warnings and notes again in Japanese, the printed Toei seal, and again on the right, in shiny dark pink, the title and the piece of the foot of Angelwoman's illustration from the cover. The really interesting thing is hidden on the lid flap again. I had following translated again by my good female WhatsApp friend who actually knows Japanese very well, and in this point a big thanks shout out to her again. This time they printed their Who Can Guess Tailmon, Choshinka, Angelwoman, or translated Tailmon, Super Evolution, Angelwoman, or for you, for us, Gatomon, Ultimate, Digivolve 2, Angelwoman. Or was it only Digivolve 2 in your dub? Well, but you know what I mean. The text on the left side flap with Angelwoman and the crest symbol of light says pretty much the same like on the previous boxes, that you should cut out the crest symbol of light, because at that time Tamashii was still considering to do a kind of campaign in the future where proof of purchase of the figure is needed, and then this cut out crest symbol is then the required proof of purchase, similar to the previous boxes. The same counts for the right side flap. This time the cute Tailmon asks us to fill out the survey, which also includes the Tamashii web logo and the web address. The conclusion. Bandai Tamashii announced in their official promotional text themselves about the proportions that the fourth release of the Choshinka Tamashii series Angelwoman is a new lineup of designs that have not been released in the past under the old Super Evolution figure series and at the time of Angemon, and that they realized now a beautiful silhouette of her that cannot be defeated by a Bishuchu figure. It is a transformable figure full of fresh surprises. Yes, and I already agreed to these official statements in my update video because it just felt right at this time, and as far as you could judge this at that time. Did I change my mind about all this? No, of course not, and I'm sticking with this opinion because also here I like how the figure turned out very much. And I am not referring on purpose now to the comparison of Patamon, Holy Angelmon, and what I said about him and Angelwoman in Patamon, Holy Angelmon's update video about comparison about Angelwoman and Holy Angelmon's implementations. Because I will take a closer look and will make a detailed explanation about this topic then in the review video about Patamon, Holy Angelmon. As I said, I do share this opinion about Tailmon and Angelwoman and agree to these official statements because they simply nailed it with the statement. And with this official statement, it also makes probably very clear why Bandai Tamashii came up with this exception for her with the removable backpack, namely to underline exactly the statement with the Bishuchu figure. Only then, as previously mentioned, very detailed, was the last step to perfectness with those additional wished option ports for Angelwoman missed out to be able to recognize her without the backpack still as Angelwoman, to not only underline that the figure looks almost as perfect like a normal female figure arts figure without a backpack and without the complete Tailmon kibble. Critical collectors want to recognize the figure in Angelwoman's form despite and all of this, but still as Angelwoman and as first of it all. Because that is the reason why Digimon fans do buy it And for these, according to official statements, these figures are mainly intended. At least that's how I see it and feel about the missing of these option ports as a fan of this kind. And I think that's an unbelievable shame. Otherwise the figure is almost like that perfect, and they could have gone so much further, but well, they didn't. Regarding to the options to be able to implement a transformable figure from a cat which becomes an angel lady, Bandai Tamashii has conjured again, even if it now seems relatively simple, and therefore this figure is, in my opinion and without any doubt, another solid masterpiece. The figure really impressive, especially in Angelwoman's form, because in this form it can hardly defeated by the figure design of a non-transforming female figure arts figure. Therefore, in my opinion, Choshinga Tamashii Tailmon Angelwoman should not be missing in any collection, because how cool it is actually to be able to finally can have a transformable figure of Tailmon Angelwoman as a fan that you always wanted in the past, and after so many years of unfulfilled desires and wishes to get it. Hey, that's absolutely awesome and cool, and for many a dream come true, isn't it? And even though many might have wished Angelwoman more as a perfect full figure arts figure, and for all the critics it is still better than there would be none in any other form as a collector's action figure, right? And maybe one day if Bandai should revive the Digimon figure arts figure series and would actually considering creating a remake as a full figure arts figure of this transformable Angelwoman figure, then this one is a good foundation stone to make one, because there is not much missing in my opinion. And with that, I also want to finish my judgment about Choshinga Tamashii series Tailmon Angelwoman or Digivolving Spirit series Gaitomon Angelwoman, because I think everything is now said that came to my mind about this figure and what was to be said about it. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you again for your attention. I'm looking forward to present you the 5th release of this figure series in the next video, and of course I will dedicate this video to Choshinga Tamashii series 05 Dorumon Alphamon or Digivolving Spirit series 05 Dorumon Alphamon. If you like this video here, I would be happy about a like, and if you like my channel, you can also leave me a subscription. Well then, take care, and until the next review video, your Mega 88 1000.
険な蝶になってきらめく風に乗って今すぐ君に会いに行こう余計なことなんて忘れた方がましさこれ以上されてる時間はない何がこの空に届くのだろうだけど明日の予定もわからない携帯な夢の後の何もない世の中じゃそうさ愛しい思いも負けそうになる